free Italy. But also a story about Antonio Conte ne omo Napoli sense ne nkomo and na mechire ne de kwakusisi nyina buboba. I think say Antonio Conte baby are all position himself as a coach, you know. In the long run, the reputation will be at stake. Shade, when him say when one particular coach and the biggest problem by cup games. In his entire seasons at Juventus, one the Coppa Italia da. On 2 occasions now, oje the Supercoppa d'Italia. Asa, and oje League 2 so. Inter Milan, one the Coppa Italia. Inter Milan a league, and Antonio Conte koje. Chelsea no baya obeji league, sasoje the FA Cup. At Napoli, the Coppa Italia went to me and a league na waje. Ojiwi o se adwuma no kra no. O pe kwa bi so man to kwa sima manage adwuma no ho akọ. Fancy. Let me say Antonio Conte on is done in a tone sadidie. Because omu ye adwuma na omu play certain smart level bi a ase omu nto aso ma bibi mbeyi omu to ase akonwa.
So when him say next season any smooth same.
Antonio Conte cannot play the Champions League and the league together and do well for Napoli. And see, it won't happen. It as a league no besa GBM. Na Champions League no we free mu. E bia be round of 16 kra. And on play no wo kra nko ye adwuma no kra na wakobo Champions League akobo league no kra ma ba akokra kogu nanim ase. Because all Juventus are every season bia no Juventus are there o Champions League mo akwa e quarter final and ahimo. The first season our G League ma Juventus, not Juventus and more any other competition because Juventus were playing in the Europa League the previous season. Sometimes I wonder the no Champions League in this annual because as a player, let's not forget that he won the Champions League in 95-96. He was a finalist. I will lose the final on 3 occasions against Borussia Dortmund 96-97. Wajid the UEFA Cup. He has been finalist in the UEFA Cup at some point in time. Wajid the UEFA Intertoto Cup. So in terms of caps, as a player, he has done it all. But as a coach, I think there's one open league at and then one of Fanabase League, no major one season. Oh, you are not caught. You're fanning build it team. Meno or one coach drew maybe Krana United ipe coach Krana many Jonsenka coach way by United Akebe one. But in the long run, whatever United wants to do, way on more United.
So on pay that long term.
Debbie. Only 2 to 3 years. Once how many players or pa and one no. Well, you're finding your project Juma.
The old one of Krana Krabesa Babe Money Diego Costa.
That is it.
And an aspect of Breno.
Yeah, Tottenham.
You're finding your project Juma cra. Now, Napoli for nobody else because I feel like a team Nigeria. Now, Amokofa Kevin De Bruyne Adenaba. Ababeshe team Nimkina. You already have Romelu Lukaku. Who wants a baby Obekobi Arsenal? If he's supposed to join Juventus, trust you me, Juventus will come for Lukaku. Baby Obekobiano, Juventus, and Juventus and ya Bresa Tudor, Omutimini in Yajumadi. It's a real season now, encore. But Antonio Conte was very good history with Juventus because he no more dominated the talents. You are not a head coach and San Allegri. So when you bring him in, but maybe someone said the quality of Juventus, said the Antonio Conte demanding no crown. Nobody me my Juma. Locatelli, oh no, you're the small type of players, ask yourself, ope. Colomwani no ope. Napoli will sit down and the ombe bite on my fingernails and say they signed a deal with the devil. Also, Timine Bonsam consign contract be we were jam or Murray, but song Susan Swan, Ediomachi, and Shedmo about on Namospe went to me. He's never a project coach, and I think he's a fine coach when it comes to winning league titles. But the reputation as a world class coach, fancy, I think Antonio Conte puts a dent on it, especially with the way will be heavy with several clubs or joining Enchebia Pam. No free or call. Enchebia no ja okonya do league ni we on to aso biem. Whatever Chelsea with their project we are told boli our come beto yem kakra. Because untimi spend a huge amount of money, over £1 billion, not 2 consecutive seasons, not untimi embo the UEFA Champions League. There is a reason why most clubs are enthused about playing in the Champions League. The charisma of the competition, the quality of opposition in the competition, the level of pedigree a competition you want to. But the reality of the situation, they won't come about the Champions League, the amount of money you gain from it. Not necessarily directly from the competition, scared but the moment you find yourself in the Champions League, or sponsors, or match day revenue, everything increases. Because fancy. So you kotoko crampo na se Obo League match o charge 20 cedis a Edu CAF Champions League o be charge 40.
Yes.
It will see kasem ye day.
101.3.
The taste and preference for the competition gives you a lot of money. But you can spend a huge amount of money for 2 seasons with young players. As a coach is bear 3. Now when your opportunity in Roma headache bibi be yo. But when my pressure never form because whatever they are building no enye nene sube swaba. Me for instance, I'm still waiting to see what will happen to their project. But I think one of the boldest steps are club ni betimi enya eteki their chance to play in the Champions League next season. That is all. Uncle Caicedo for such amount of money. Uncle Enzo Fernandez for such amount of money. Uncle most of these players for such amount of money. And be still be langling around 4th, 3rd. And Champions League. But people expect you to win. But I think the Champions League offers you another opportunity for projects now to move to a different stage. I'm happy for them. Say the last few games netting pa.
Yeah, because Mekai say
Manchester
the last 6 matches.
Netting pa. Netting. Obi obeka say games na nya din bia na oboa. But I think this is a test of character for a young team like Chelsea. They needed some of these moments to test their pulse. Fancy. And could we mono to be very honest with you within the team. Obi and one ma wajibi bi papa bia. Top player bien one ma beka so winner wo. Chelsea current setup ni. Adara bioyo onye winner papa bia. The more market can Nicholas Jackson mone Copa Man the City no kra no mo gigi leagues no no start it. But to feel part of a certain project, to be a major consistent winner in this setup, no natural. It would hear Enzo Maresca at a point in time. On one case, because omu here winners, omu here a certain level of experience be omu dressing room more. So because by press conference, because I said no. So players, no, don't must say young players, baby. But within the dressing room, they need people of more experience. They be because a Chelsea Champions League no more. One of the key players are no more set up. Nimbo Power Thiago Silva. That season on the impact on the players and the team. A can be na some of the young players no more Chelsea team ni will idolize and say you perceive as a Thiago Silva, you perceive as a Thiago Silva. But I think this first step for this young Chelsea team is very important to help their mentality going forward. It's an important step because all fighting for we are. The next step is say you fight to be consistent in qualifying for the Champions League. If you become consistent in fighting for the Champions League, the next step you move in is the league title. From the league title, then you might target the Champions League or target other things. So this basic foundation that has been set by this current crop of Chelsea players, so Oma told ball inside day NC form plus the coach, good resource, solid. First, the transfer market is heating up. Now me say in Komodo center around the domino effect of the strikers. Strikers we are say. Liverpool says say open wine.
Who go ekitike?
Frankfurt one mo no mo bu omo afiwe pa ne nkofo mo po mo bu omo. You see, sometimes let's sit down and understand how Frankfurt City turn omo strikers. Busa won say Jovic ko en ekosi say. Ombe twaso wani sisi e. Mamush na aba ana obo ne kakra. Enye kitike ya na ko ne nam Paris Saint-Germain ya wakopie mo Frankfurt. And I think sir, one thing is clear about the target of Liverpool. I think Liverpool does not need a striker in the mode of Darwin Núñez. and obi to say Victor Osimhen. They need a striker in the mode of Alexander Isak. But Alexander Isak, they are not difficult because Newcastle are qualified for Champions League.
Yes.
That profile also they so hemwa ekitike na no mo de omoni beto to ano mara kofa de aba. But the most important aspect of their transfer is to get a number 10 in the shape of Florian Wirtz. And the quality of Florian Wirtz they be bro maybe one way or the other they might even decide to even keep Darwin Núñez and play Diogo Jota as the number 9 depending on the plan asem. But the gap also so hard no class betimi abo as the number 9. But kitike mu ne ye okoni abo 80 60 70 na wo kotua Frankfurt for ne die me dey am one person me share that into but Victor Gyökeres should also be careful. Victor Gyökeres asem na wo ka say United for ayo mo say no mo mpɛ enye no korɛ United ni Champions League o ma
no Champions League
open abo but Champions League na but Champions League na wo pa abo no team na wo pɛ o pa na sisi e no e ya Arsenal no so ne Benjamin Sesko akoye dey akodi nkomo and no check bibia here it looks like Ateta is more enthused about Benjamin Sesko than Victor Gyökeres.
Yeah.
Run to me.
Liverpool nya na adwen say Victor Gyökeres. They have not moved in for him. Chelsea are qualified for Champions League no mu taste besesa because the moment Chelsea qualifies for the Champions their taste and preference changes. Sa squad no mo de ball Conference League no mu timi fa sa squad ni nchemu ntum be Champions League there be. So the squad they come Champions League you lose week after week and suffer. So they will also love to beef up. Maybe Chelsea will also love to move in for Victor Gyökeres. But we are Chelsea Delap, Gyökeres, never Nicolas Jackson call wings. We are Liverpool target a different player aside Hugo Ekitike. Some more per Alvarez as well. Atletico Madrid for ne Pelunes. That is where deal no betimi aweke ama both sides na so betimi aba.
Wo, me da say, Meza, Mike.
Fancy, me da say. Now, we are story now try Xabi Alonso in the presentation in the Tuja. And I think